Alright, what's up guys? We're doing another form check video today. I haven't done one of these in a while. I've kind of gotten behind. I've had several people send in videos that they want me to look at for form, and just haven't, with school starting back, gotten around to making a video about it. So anyway, we've got 4 that we're going to do today. Normally I try to kind of blind react to the form videos people send in. I've looked at these beforehand though, since I have 4 that I'm going to be doing today, and went ahead and took some notes so that I could stay on track while doing it and it didn't become a super long video. We're doing Jordan Williams, Justin Smith, Caleb Collins, and Christian Parks today. 4 players, all of them have sent in backhand videos that we're going to look at, and we'll get right on into it. Alright, so we're going to start out with Jordan first. As last time, I'm using my iPad here to look through the videos, which that will be on the screen, and then I'm using my phone to record this, so it's not the best setup, but it works. Alright, so we're going to look at the first video here. This is of Jordan throwing backhand. We got slow-mo. Slow-mo is always best. So, alright, we like to look from the feet up, looking at this throw. Whoops, ran up a little too fast. Okay. So, looking from the ground up, his footwork looks good. He's staying on his toes. Brace step looks good. Good rotation off of it. So this is definitely a powerful throw. I mean, you can see just size of his arms. This is a dude with some strength. He can definitely rip on the disc. So a few notes that I went ahead and wrote down is this power pocket right here, and there's another video we'll look at. This power pocket is a little bit high for my liking, and the only reason I say that, because it could work definitely, is the shoulder of his throwing arm is lifting pretty high up when he's throwing here, and you kind of want to keep that a little bit lower maybe. And this throw just looks like it's kind of rising the entire way. It's kind of like this as he's pulling through. So power pocket might be a little bit high. The main thing here, because this looks like a very athletic and probably a very powerful throw already, is I'm not seeing a whole lot of hip rotation. The hips aren't super engaged on this. I mean, any throw is going to have the hips a little bit engaged, and I think that's where he could really possibly be losing some power. I'm not sure if he sent this in for accuracy or for power. I'm going to assume power here. But yeah, just looking at the hips, and we'll look at this other video, and I think you can see it a little bit better. Kind of right here, they're in a neutral spot, and then they move forward from a neutral spot. There's not a whole lot of coiling in the hips, which is something that I haven't really talked about before, because it's something that I've had to start implementing into my throw because I realized I was missing out on it. But the hips are kind of neutral here. They're not really coiled back. They're just, you can kind of explode from this middle ground, and he does that well. But let's look at this other video. Whoops, wrong one. Let's look at this other video, and I think you can see what I'm talking about a little bit better. Again, we've got slow-mo, good footwork, he's on the toes. You can see this reach back is out from the body, not a whole lot of rounding here. Power pocket, maybe a little high just because that shoulder's coming up. But I want you to focus on the rotation of his shoulders here as I move back and forth versus the rotation of his hips. So you can see there's a lot of shoulder rotation here and not a lot of hip rotation. And that just really helps be a little bit more explosive in the throw. I mean, this follow through looks great. Most things about this throw look good. This is definitely a powerful throw already. Just getting those hips a little bit more engaged is going to help maybe add a little bit of power and probably even a little bit of accuracy when you're dialing that throw back and not throwing it as hard. But yeah, that's the main 2 things I saw here. This looks like really good form already. Is just that power pocket's a little bit high. This reach back might be a little low right here, where we go ahead and cocking the disc back, since it's not anywhere close really to the line that we're pulling through on. That could cause some nose angle issues every once in a while. But the main thing is power pocket's a little high, but it's probably not that bad. It's just when you clicked on the wrong one again. When you look at this video, you can really see there's a lot of shoulder rotation and not a lot of hip rotation. So, again, good throw. That's probably the main thing I would look at there. All right, next we're going to look at Caleb Collins. This is a backhand. I've only got one video of him. He definitely wins the award for the prettiest backdrop. I mean, that's just, I think he's probably thrown in Louisiana, around New Orleans here probably, if I had to guess. Anyways, this is a former MSU teammate and a good friend of mine, so we'll take a look here at this. And I do have one note, and this is something I've known about Caleb's form for a long time. He does have a little bit of rounding, and that's one thing you're going to see right here. You can see this disc is kind of behind his upper body here when he pulls back, and you can watch the shoulders have to rotate, and he's in this power pocket for a little bit longer than you'd like to be because he's having to get that disc around the body. So we really want to make sure that we're getting the disc away from the body. And then I guess we'll go back to our usual, which is looking from the feet up. You can see here Caleb is wearing the Chacos, one of the only players I know to play in Chacos. But overall, his footwork looks a little, it looks good. It's a little flat-footed, like he's not real, he's on the toe on his back foot. This plant step comes in. That's always going to be kind of flat foot eventually. This is the foot I meant. This one that plants right here, it kind of gets a little flat, but that's not too bad. The main thing in Caleb's form that I saw when looking at it was he stays on this brace step for a long time. So I'll play at a normal speed and just watch how long he's on his brace step for. This is slow-mo, by the way. So he steps, he's still on it, and then he throws through it. A lot of times what you're going to see is people hit their reach back, max reach back, right before the foot plants, and then they're immediately pulling through. There's kind of a delay here of the amount of time that he's on that foot for. So this is probably a timing issue, and it could be caused by the rounding from him having to get the disc around the body is causing extra time on that pull through. But really, we just want to time the upper body probably to be a little bit later to get into all these points than it is. Like his max reach back should be about right here, but then the disc should be already starting to move forwards as soon as his foot hits the ground here. And it doesn't start moving until after it's firmly planted in the ground. The shot looks maybe a little nose up. We're not concerned about that really though. Both of these two videos, I should say, the left arm looks very engaged, which is good. Just want to add a little bit of power and accuracy to any shot. But I think Caleb just stays on that front foot a little too long. So main thing we're looking at here, I mean, both of these players are good players that I know of. So they know what they're doing. We've got a little bit of rounding on this shot. It's hard to tell from this angle how much it is. But then that plant foot, we're just staying on it for way too long. And we really want to be hitting it and then immediately pulling through. So that's what I've got for Caleb. All right, now looking at Justin's video, we'll do his next because I also have two videos of him. So we'll get right on into that. All right, these are full speed, so I'm gonna have to slow them down a little bit. All right, we'll just watch it. Okay, and the other one looks like he's just throwing in his yard. So I will say, I always have a tendency to change my form up a little bit when throwing into nets. I'm not exactly sure why. I hear you tend to want to throw the disc more nose down when you're throwing into nets than normal, and that can change some stuff about your pull through. Besides the fact though, we'll start on this first video just looking at feet moving up. He's on his toes. Maybe this step here that's on the ground is a little bit pointed backwards, but it does help him get the hips coiled. I'll say this shot looks like he's running up into it a little too fast. Like it looks like we're almost literally running up into it. For the shot, I mean, this is fine if we're like out in a big field, maybe, but it just looks a little fast. It looks like his weight's like shifting ahead of him more than he wants. And I think you can see that here because he does incorporate pretty good brace mechanics, but his momentum still just pulls him straight through that brace step over the edge of the T-pad, which I'm not saying going over the edge of the T-pad is bad by any means, but his momentum just looks like it's a little too far forwards. It looks a little bit uncontrolled. But anyway, that's the footwork. Yeah, that step right there is on the ground is probably pointed a little too far back. And this last step's pretty big. Anyways, so let's look at this reach back. It's maybe a little angled nose up right there, or like the disc is pointing towards the sky right there. Left arm looks pretty engaged again, which is good. And I think similar to what we were talking about with Jorden, there's not a whole lot of hip rotation after or while he's throwing. So where Jorden didn't really coil the hips, but then he exploded kind of from a neutral point, Jorden has his hips coiled here pretty well, but then it's kind of neutral here, and you can see there's not a whole lot of rotation here. It's a lot of arm motion. And this is a problem I used to have a lot, and I watched a Ricky Wysocki video. It was just like a practice round where he talked about it a little bit, about really trying to focus on getting your hips rotated forwards with the arm, so it's not just your arm moving. Power pocket looks really good here. It looks like a lot of arm, and I think you can see that kind of in the follow through here too. So let's look at this other one, see what we see. I mean, Justin's an MA1 player again. He knows what he's doing. It's just a little bit of form advice can always help. So I need to play at normal speed. Okay. So also there's this little forward pump, at least in this one, where I'd like to see from like right here, I'd like to see the disc moving back to its max reach back point. And it kind of looks like we're hitting that really fast. Like we're getting it from a neutral spot right here to its max reach back, all in the time that we're about to take this last step, which is okay. I personally like to kind of reach it back slowly throughout the run up and then pull forwards. That's kind of all more preference. I do think let's see. Yeah, I think that's just preference, and I think that that's just kind of how he throws with that little bit faster run up there. Again, in the second video, you can see this foot that's on the ground right here is pointed a little too far back. We'd really like that to be a little bit more perpendicular to the run up. Again, power pocket looks very clean. It's just not a lot of hip rotation here. And you can see this foot sticks to the ground. This brace step here doesn't really allow for much rotation while the shot's throwing. And that's another thing that can hold back hip rotation, is that brace step just sticking and not getting a good release. So this one's a little bit harder to analyze because I know Justin is a good thrower. He can throw far for sure. I would say maybe this run up is a little uncontrolled. It's just a little fast probably. Maybe want to slow down just a little bit. I mean, we're really kind of hopping, and with the feet not being perpendicular, this is a little, you can just have some shots spray left and right here. Nose angle really isn't going to be a problem on that type of run up. It's just with less hip rotation and with the upper body being faced so far back because of these feet pointed backwards, it can lead to some accuracy issues. So I would say maybe slow the run up down a little bit, and then focus on getting those hips rotated out towards the shot a little bit more. Looks like really good form for if he throws a lot of highs or flips. Probably that follow through looks really good for that. But overall, again, pretty good. None of these forms are necessarily like have any major flaws. It's little things that help, but little things add 25, 50 feet of power at a time. So that's what we're going for. So yeah, just a little bit of a quick run up. Might be losing some balance, some control issues right in this part right here, and then just making sure that the hips move forward with it, and it's not just arm. Yep. All right, and last but not least, we've got Christian. He's on my brother's disc golf club team down at Mississippi College. And he's a forehand dominant player who's really been trying to work on incorporating his backhand into his game more. So he's going to be a little bit behind some of these other guys in backhand form, but that's why we're here, is to help and try to get this thing figured out. All right. So number one, looking at feet going up, right? So this step, just like we were talking about in Justin's, this step that's on the ground right here is probably pointed a little too far backwards, but it does get the hips coiled. So you really want to try to stay that foot more perpendicular and purposefully get your hips coiled towards the back of the T-pad. Anyways, the main thing here with the footwork is this brace step, which is the step that's like leading your throw. It's a step you throw through. It doesn't really help him much here. You can see how his momentum pulls him straight through that brace step. It's kind of like that brace step is more just an extra step to get him to get the disc out of the hand here. And we really don't want that. We want the brace step to be bracing you. It wants to help you stop your momentum so that, I'll pause this real quick. When you incorporate your brace step, you want to have the energy that you've created that's moving with your momentum to be stopped. And good brace mechanics make it where as little of that energy goes into the ground as possible, and instead the energy is going out through your arm. So it's just kind of moving up and into your arm and throwing. So when you have brace mechanics that are less fine-tuned, that are kind of, you're having momentum stay that's with your body even after the disc has left your hand. So right here, he's losing power and energy because of the fact that some of that power and energy has to stay in his body to move through that brace step. I'll look at Jordan's just for a comparison here. He had really good brace mechanics. So see, you can see a lot of his momentum just goes into that last step. And in the end, it comes out of the disc because his body's not having to travel through his brace step. With Christian's, his body's traveling through that brace step, meaning there's some energy that could be going into the disc that's having to just stay with his body. So looking at this reach back, it's pretty good. He gets the disc away from him. His shoulders are turned back. I would maybe get the head turned back a little bit more because it looks like he's pretty eager to pull it through. So I think this is a frame we can look at. It looks like his body is maybe leaned back just a little bit. And then also, as we know, his momentum is moving forwards, going to move forwards past that brace step. That's why it looks a little bit like curved, a little awkward here. I would say the left arm, it's kind of unengaged. And the main thing is it's back behind his hips, which you really kind of want that to be beside your hip or in front, because that's just going to keep your shoulders turned away from your shot too much. So if he's trying to throw through like this, right, and you put your shoulder down in front of you, he's putting his back, which is going to stretch this part of your chest, and you really want to be stretching your back when you throw. I've heard it said you want it to kind of be like you're opening up your shoulder blades when you're throwing. So you want to get this arm kind of in while this arm's throwing and it opens up your back. If you keep it behind you, you're opening up your chest, which isn't really what you want to do. That's another kind of power issue. Follow through looks all right. This looks like maybe a mid-range that he's throwing, so probably not throwing on full power, probably just going for like an accurate normal shot here. But yeah, I mean, he's not afraid to put some power on it for sure. He does have a pretty good power pocket if he can get the momentum right. And it doesn't really look like he's got a whole lot of rounding, which is good. And it's hard to tell from this angle specifically what direction exactly he's throwing this disc in. So I'm going to assume there's not a whole lot of rounding, probably just a little bit. But the main thing here is this brace mechanic. We really want to be stopping on that front foot. And then the other thing was making sure that left arm kind of gets in front of the hips so that we're opening up our back and not our chest. So that'll do it for today's form work videos. Hopefully I can stay a little bit more on track with making these. But again, that was Jordan, Caleb, Justin, and Christian. And all these guys, great throwers, great players. These were definitely some of the better form videos that I think I've analyzed. There was a lot of little things, little nitpicking things, that I saw. All these guys can throw pretty far from what I know, and are good players, have a well-rounded game. So I'm happy that I can help out, and just trying to help them figure out a few ways to maybe add a couple 10 feet, 20 feet of distance, or higher percentage accuracies at a time. That's what we're trying to do this for. Anyways, we'll see y'all.